everybody, how we doing? We're Vote Common Good. We're glad to be here. My name is Dan Dietrich, and I'm a native of West Michigan myself. My band used to play Grand Rapids all the time. The Intersection, the Orbit Room, I don't think that's still a thing, but back in the day, you know how that goes. But we're going to give you a little music and some short talks to talk about voting for the common good, what that means, and I hope you really enjoy it. But we'll sing a little song for you. If you pick it up, sing it along. It's a song by William Matthews. There's a world at war, caught in suffering, silent casualties. Oh God, grant us peace. In these sleepless nights, I can hardly breathe. Despite brutality, I know that we'll be free. I know that we'll be free. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Yeah. So let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free. In these desperate times, love will hold us here. Love will hold our hands, teach us to have no fear. So we lay our hate down to wash their feet. When we see our brothers, oh, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free. Yeah. So let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Yeah. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Oh, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free.
Hey, really good to see all of you here tonight. My name is Doug Padgett. I'm also with Vote Common Good. I've been a pastor for all my adult life. Actually, I'm one of those people that comes from that Jesus following, evangelizing, telling people about the good news tradition of caring for everybody and including everybody in the story tradition. So in some ways, traveling around the country and saying to regular old people or faith voters, hey, you should vote for the common good, it kind of makes sense, right? If you're somebody that cares about the good news, you think you'd care about the common good, and you'd say to people, why don't you think about that instead of just a political ideology or a party affiliation? Seems like a good idea. You know what really blows my mind? I have to travel around the country with this good gaggle of common do-gooders and ask people for faith, hope, and love instead of insurrections and Christian nationalism. Like, I got to tell you, never saw that coming. 2018, we started this organization because we thought that faith voters voting for Donald Trump was really a problem. We thought that people who cared about the common good would vote differently, and we met a lot of people. Yeah, feel free to come on. You're not bothering anybody. Really glad to have you. We knew a lot of people who said to themselves, I didn't really want to, but I vote for Republicans. It's just sort of what I do, so I gave it a try. And then we heard him say this, I don't know who else I'd hang around with. Everyone I know who cares about their faith votes for Republicans. I mean, I get that. I've pastored churches and been around religious people and religious church leaders 35 years. I know a lot of people have that experience, and we thought what people need is not just to know new things, for sure they do. They don't just need an invitation into the good, for sure they do. They also need a community of people that they can participate with, a community of people that they can join. So we formed Vote Common Good in order to try to solve a particular problem. And in 2021, we said to ourselves at Vote Common Good, I wonder if we're going to still be able to talk to people the way we used to, because maybe things have changed. Maybe you all thought that way between November and January 5th, right? Maybe you thought so. But then January 6th hit. and you watched it, and you heard it. You saw the signs, you saw the crosses, you saw the prayer inside the Senate chamber, praying in Jesus' name, thanking God for their right to come in and brutalize people. And a whole lot of people said, that can never happen again. What are we going to do about it? Now, you might think that that would have been enough, but I promise you it's not enough. I got a text message from somebody today. Like maybe some of you are on my text message list. If you got anybody get a ringless voicemail from a guy you didn't know? Yeah, anybody get a text message? You're welcome, real guy. Somebody wrote back and said, why are you guys going around doing this? Somebody from a 608 area code. Is that in the area here? Somebody said 608 area code. Said the real insurrection was on November 3rd when they stole the election. Nobody really got hurt other than the police killing an unarmed innocent person on that day. People are telling another story about not only January 6th, they're telling another story about our country. So we're not here to ask you to only vote for Democrats. Look, who you vote for, that's between you and your friends or whoever you choose to tell, your conscience, your God, whoever you want to do. We're not here to ask you only to vote for Democrats. We're here to introduce you to a few so that you can at least say, I've met them and I know who they are and I have a choice to make, because we think agency is a big part of all this work. We think people being able to say, hey, I have a choice to make. Too many people feel like they don't have a choice when it comes to their politics, that somehow something else told them who they had to vote for. And they feel stuck, and then they feel alone, and then they feel nervous, and then they don't know where to go. We've come to Grand Rapids and Holland a lot. I don't know if you all been with us before, but some of you are familiar faces. So you see, good friends. Some of us have, traveled around the country together and rode bikes along the border and have done all kinds of things together. But we keep coming back here. And there's a reason. Because this state and this part of the state matters. We've been telling people all over the country that there's a bunch of evangelicals who are willing to break from their Republican voting habits. You know what a lot of people say to us? Really? Like where? Can you prove it? I thought we were stuck with, right? You've heard it like I've heard it. Maybe you've thought it yourself like I've thought it myself. You wonder. So then we did a lot of work in 2018, 2019, 2020 here in this part of Michigan. Did you know that in the 2020 election, only 2 counties flipped their vote in the presidential election from voting for Trump to voting for Biden? Only 2 counties. What's that? In Michigan. Yes, thank you. In Michigan. 2 counties in Michigan. Kent County and Ottawa County. Everywhere else in the state, everything stayed even. All the numbers went up, but the only place that flipped, Kent and Ottawa County. The win for Joe Biden and not Donald Trump in Michigan came because of Kent County and Ottawa County. And you know what I know. There's no way that happens without good religious people switching their votes. And that's what happened in this area, and that's an applause. So we'd love you to clap for that. But look, this isn't just about winning an election. This is about having a different story. We can all convince ourselves that one election is sufficient. And look, none of us believe that politics is the single answer for everything. Getting the right political party to do the right thing isn't even always enough. There's another story, and that is all of us, we the people, knowing that there's something else we can do, something else we can be a part of, and another way that we can live. So we're here to encourage you to take faith, hope, and love and to make it something that's going to be a reality in your world. And how that's going to happen, it's not going to look like it did in 2004 or in 2008 or in 2012 or in 2016 or in 2020. We are, in my estimation, into new territory here. Look, Republicans aren't always wrong. You know who was right about something? Marco Rubio. Can you believe it? I would say that Marco Rubio was right about something, because Rubio is the person who's behind the Sunshine Protection Act that passed through the Senate and is going to be passed in the House. The Sunshine Protection Act. You know what the Sunshine Protection Act does? It protects daylight savings time. So good for Marco Rubio. I don't like changing my clocks back any more than any of the rest of you do. So he's willing to protect the sunshine. Good for him. They're not always wrong. But we not only need to protect the sunshine, we need to protect democracy. We need to protect the economy. We need to protect women's rights to make their own decisions about their bodies. There's a whole lot of things we need to protect. I'm glad we're going to protect the sunshine. I didn't know it needed protection, but let's go ahead and protect that too. There's a lot of things we need to do. There's a lot of motivations we need to have. If you're a Republican, we're so glad you're here. We put up some billboards, you can hear about that in a little bit, that said, "What happened to my Republican Party?" I have so many Republican friends that have said that out loud to me. What happened to my Republican Party? I mean, there's days I think, what happened to politics? What happened to our country? This whole what happened question, it's a big one. So if you're asking that question, we're super glad that you're here. Thanks for being a part of all this. I'm going to introduce you to Rob Ryerson in a minute, then he's going to introduce you to Nick, and then Dan's going to serenade you, and then you're going to hear from some candidates that are running for office. But some of you know that Hillary Scholten is running for office, and she can't be here tonight, but we did get her to send us a video. And these guys are making fun of me about this. But I said, well, you know what we'll do, because she sent us a video, we'll just hold that up in front of everybody, and we'll play the video. So here's Hillary.
Hi, Vote Common Good friends. Thank you so much for gathering today and helping get the vote out here in West Michigan. This election is so important. There is so much on the line, and we have an opportunity like never before to help elect a champion for common good here in West Michigan. I am so sorry I couldn't be with you there in person today, but I am there with you in spirit and out campaigning here in West Michigan to win this seat. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you. I don't know if that clapping's for Doug or for Hillary or for me or what, but thank you. So my name's Rob Ryerson. I'm a pastor from Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I'm a lifelong Republican. Grew up in the Republican Party, and really kind of like took it real seriously, like Rush Limbaugh listening, William F. Buckley reading, like had a picture of Newt Gingrich on my wall when I was a teenager. Went to teenage Republican school as like summer camp. Which now when I tell people that, it sounds like I must have had the lamest childhood of anybody I can imagine. But that's like I grew up in that, and then I had this evening that I went to bed absolutely horrified that my party had nominated Donald Trump to be their candidate for the White House in 2016. And then a few months after that, I went to bed even more horrified that, entirely too many people voted for Donald Trump and he was going to become president of the United States. And there's been all of these times, before Donald Trump and after Donald Trump, I have asked this question in my head so many times. What happened to my Republican Party, right? Like, what happened? What happened? There's kind of that old famous Ronald Reagan quote that people mention sometimes, because Ronald Reagan used to be a Democrat, and he used to say, I didn't leave the Democratic Party left me, which is a real kind of clever Reagan-esque way of saying things, right? I've got this question that rattles around, like, did the Republican Party leave me, or did I leave the Republican Party? What happened to this thing? How did this party become a party of insurrections and Christian nationalism and winning at all costs and just this, like, we don't care who we hurt, who we steamroll, all of these values that we've professed over the years, all of these things we've said that we stand for, it all goes out the door just so we can win elections. And when we don't win elections, we're going to claim that we did anyways and, throw a gigantic, temper tantrum. What happened to my Republican Party? I think in a lot of ways the Republican Party's changed. That it's changed. It has become more and more extreme. It is kind of abandoned conservative values and traditional values and embraced authoritarian values. And it's really scary consequences of that. It's changed. But I also think in a lot of ways I've changed too. It's not just that the Republican Party's changed over the years. I feel like I've changed a lot over the years. And the more the more I understand how we need a society that's about justice and generosity. We need a culture that cares about not just a surface level civility, but a real deep understanding and welcoming of others, and listening to the different perspectives and appreciating them. When I recognize that, the more I've learned that, it's not just about me and how much I pay in taxes, or about, when I eventually get rich, how much I don't want to pay in taxes then. Because, this is this is the crazy thing about how people vote. They don't vote about what they get now. They vote about what they aspire to be. And we want low taxes on the rich because someday I'm going to be rich. That's the weird American thing. But it's less about that, and it's more about how are we in this thing together? And how do we take care of each other in the midst of this? So what happened? Well, a lot's happened. Lots happened to the Republican Party, and a lot has happened to me. And so I find myself now, since Donald Trump got elected in 2016, I woke up the day after that election, and I had that sense of I've got to do something. It's not enough for me just to complain about it on Facebook. I've got to, and certainly that's important. At times, I don't know. But I've got to do something. And so that led to a whole significant change in my life, where I went from, I ended up running for Congress. I got involved with Vote Common Good. I was a part of a political action committee for the 2020 election cycle. I work on campaigns now, and I joke with folks that two people who have changed my life more than any, Jesus and Donald Trump. Because I was on one path, and now I'm on a completely different one. But I talk with people all the time, and with this, what are we going to do? What do we do about this? What do we do about this situation we find ourselves in? People ask me, whenever somebody says to me, oh, what are you up to? How'd your day go? What'd you do today? What are you up to these days? I see somebody, and whenever anybody asks me that question, the thing I always say to them, well, just trying to save democracy. That's all. And there's that sense of there's a lot on the line. There's a lot at stake right now. I'm not a big believer in that this is the most important election of your lifetime line that always gets said. But I do know that this is a really important one. I do know that there's a lot on the line, and there's a lot that needs to be done. So what can you do? What can you do? You might say, well, I'm not running for Congress. I'm not going to run for office. I don't know what I can do. I get it. It can be intimidating. But listen, you got to do something. You got to do something. And whatever you can do, that's what you need to do. I can tell you, I've worked on a lot of campaigns over the last several years, and have learned a lot about the ins and outs of how all of this works. And any little bit helps. If you can donate, donate. If you can max out your donation, do that. If you can't max out your donation, give whatever you can. If you can make some phone calls, if you can send some texts, if you can knock on some doors, if you can go to a campaign office and stuff some envelopes, if you can deliver some yard signs, whatever you can do, do that. And talk to some people, talk to some neighbors, have some conversations, because things have changed. And it feels like this all just feels too big to fix. It's just so much. And that is true unless we all just do whatever we can do. I'm a pastor who, over the years has used biblical stories to kind of make sense of my life. And there's all these stories throughout the whole biblical narrative of small little things making a big difference. I'm thinking about the smooth stones that a young man took out of a creek and flung at a giant and knocked him down. I'm thinking about bread and fish that were handed to Jesus and used to feed multitudes. Small little things. People just doing whatever they could do. So do whatever you can do. That's all you have to do. And maybe some of you are saying, yeah, it's a Saturday night and I'm at a political gathering. I'm plugged in, I'm doing my thing. Come on, bro. Yeah, what more do you want, right? Listen, there are people in your life who are feeling like, what happened and what do I do? Take this message to them. Tell them that all they have to do is what they can do. It's all they have to do, but they've got to do it. It's all you have to do is what you can do, but you've got to do it. We've got, 46 days between now and Election Day? It's 46 days to do everything we possibly can, to do everything we can, to do what we can do to make a difference. Thanks so much, everybody. Nick Brock is coming up.
Thank you, Rob. Rob, that applause is for you. Hi, thanks for coming out. My name is Nick Brock, and I am the Executive Director for Vote Common Good West Michigan, the local expression for Vote Common Good. So this all kind of came together 2 years ago when Vote Common Good was coming around through town in Holland and Grand Rapids. And lo and behold, I was invited to go on their national bus, the national tour with their bus. So I was on that bus for 6 weeks, giving a little stump speech to encourage folks around here and elsewhere to move away from the politics of Trumpism and to vote for Joe Biden. Well, that turned out to be a success. And so after the election, I said to Doug, hey, how can I take this back home? How can I continue this where I live? Because I thought there was such a great need for it. And so Vote Common Good West Michigan started. So the goal of our work is to change the narrative, to change the status quo concerning politics and religion. So around here, that means only one thing most of the time. It means that you might either be a conservative Christian and vote a Republican, voting for a Republican. And doing otherwise will incur the wrath of many folks. And we want to say, no, that's not the occasion. We want to provide the exit ramp and the off ramp to do things differently. So tonight you're going to hear from some common good candidates. And what that means is that these candidates have committed to the common good in these 5 ways. They've committed to dignity, mutuality, humility, civility, and the promotion of democracy in their politics. And that's it. I don't think I'm reinventing the wheel here, and I think a lot of the people here are already doing that, but we want to take that out to the streets and let people know that this is the way that we should be talking about and doing politics, especially when it intersects with our faith. So you're going to hear from a number of candidates tonight, and they have our support. They have my support, so I want you to go out and do likewise for them leading up to November 8th. And then before I leave, and before Dan sings his song, I have a little story here. So as you all know, Art Prize is going on, and it wraps up in about a week or so. And I met an Art Prize artist just yesterday. He is a poet. His name is William Davis. And he has this little shtick where he has a typewriter, and if you have a particular word, one word, you can give that word to him, and he will set forth a short poem. So I gave him the word insurrection. And I want to share that short poem with you before I exit. And then I will invite you. There are pieces of paper at your table where you can write down your word, and then you can give it to William later. But let me read this short poem. Insurrection. When a home is built on broken hope and the walls are painted with problems, the rules that are welcomed will be built at breaking point and will bind. Take time. And those who live in will be stuck, looking and wishing until it falls flame graced and fire pushed, and after all we'll watch the house burn down. Dan.
As I mentioned, I grew up not too far from here in a little town called Baroda, Michigan, southwest corner. And like Rob, I grew up in the church, grew up conservative Republican because everyone was. I don't think I met a Democrat till like high school, and it was like finding a unicorn. And like Rob, I think my problem was I took it too seriously. I believed the things that I was taught. I took the words of Jesus seriously. I thought we were meant to actually care for people, love people, and do whatever we could to make life better for others. And I don't know if it's that the Republican Party left me or that I just slowly began to see that it wasn't what I was sold as a kid. And so 2016 came along, Donald Trump came along, and I saw good people that I know and love and respect, larger-than-life voices from my childhood that threw their weight behind Donald Trump, a man that looked nothing like Jesus. And in the years since, I just tried to figure out what to do about that. And like Rob said, you got to do something. And so for me, it was writing this song. It's called Hymn to the 81%, and it's a sort of letter to the faith tradition that I was raised in, the 81% of white evangelicals that voted for Donald Trump. And released this song in 2020, and Fox News got a hold of it, and not in a good way. And death threats, arson threats, just the craziest stuff. But also a lot of solidarity and people that said, this put words to what I've been feeling too. And so maybe you'll find yourself in this song as well. I grew up in your churches, Sunday morning and evening service, wet in tears at the foot of the rugged cross. You taught me every life is sacred, feed the hungry and clothe the naked. Learn from you the highest law is love. And I believed you when you said that I should trust the words in red to guide my steps through a wicked world. I assumed you'd do the same, so imagine my dismay when I watched you lead the sheep straight to the wolves. You said to love the lost, well, I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, well, I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. Oh, they started putting kids in cages, ripping mothers from their babies, and I looked to you to speak on their behalf. Oh, but all I heard was silence, or worse, you justified it, singing glory, hallelujah, raise the flag. See, your fear had turned to hatred, but you baptized it with language. torn from the pages of the good book. You weaponized religion, and you wonder why I'm leaving to find Jesus on the wrong side of your walls. You said to love the lost, well, I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, well, I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. Come home, come home. You're better than this. You taught me better than this. Come home, come home. You're better than this. Oh, you taught me better than this. Come home, come home. Maybe I was too naive, or I just didn't want to see that there's always been a little poison in the well. Our churches sit on stolen land, a nation built by stolen hands, and we use the Bible to justify it all. Yeah, from slavery and segregation to mass incarceration. This is who we are, but not who we have to be. There's a lot of work to do to pull up the evil by the roots, but repentance has to come before there's peace. You said to love the lost. I'm trying to love you now. You said to speak the truth. Well, that's why I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. 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 Thank you so much. Now, I believe, Nick, we've got some of our candidates coming up. Who we got first?
Amazing job. My name is Cameron Zibikowski. I am a candidate running for the Granville Board of Education. I'm also the only nonpartisan candidate here tonight. Frankly, to me, it doesn't matter. But it does matter, but it doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat. It's about students' education and making sure that when you're voting with faith, hope, and love. I think those are concepts that we can all get around. As a candidate, when I was approached by Vote Common Good for an endorsement, I firmly believe in their pillars of just following the golden rule: treat others as you want to be treated. I think by doing that, as citizens and as constituents within our own separate districts, we can really make the world a better place, not just for us, but for our students and our kids as well. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Granville. I'm from Granville. I graduated in '04. When elected, I'll be the youngest member on the board, but But the being from Granville, after I graduated, I went into the Navy. I wanted to serve my country. I did 8 years in the Navy as a personnel specialist, doing military HR. Finished up and moved back to West Michigan to go to school at Grand Valley State. My degree's in human resources management. I'm currently working on my master's in public administration. And I've worked with the Granville School District as both long-term, day-to-day, and also a district sub for the for Granville Public Schools. There's a few things platform-wise that I'm running on. One is making sure that our classrooms are fully funded and that our students and their teachers have the resources they need to be successful while in that classroom. I want to reduce bullying within the district and improve mental health services to our students. I think every student deserves to feel safe and valued while they're going to school so that they can focus on what's most important, and that's their education. I also want to work on rebuilding the trust in our educators. Due to current political climates, that has significantly taken a hit, and I hope to re-bridge that gap. I also want to, I understand that education and higher education specifically isn't for everybody. Not everybody wants a college degree or a university degree. I want to work with the local trades unions and make sure that there's alternative paths for students who don't want to go to college so that they can still have a good job after they graduate high school. What do I bring to the table? I know I'm kind of young to be running for school board. What I bring is my legislative and policy skills. I have 2 bills that were introduced to the U.S. House of Representatives as part of my legislative proposal for improving the VA's patient advocacy program. One passed the House of Representatives in May, 411 to 1, and it passed the U.S. Senate a few weeks ago, earlier this month, under unanimous consent with no amendment, and was signed by Biden into law, President Biden into law last week. So, thank you. So the reason I bring that up is I feel strongly that my ability to take opposing viewpoints and find a common path forward for both parties and both viewpoints in the best interest of our students is a skill that is badly needed in the district and that I can help fill. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm John Fitzgerald, candidate for state representative in the 83rd House District. I am the son of a politician. I am the son of a minister, which means my parents were a lot of fun at parties, and everybody wanted to talk to us. What it really did is it actually guided my development through my teenage years, because my father died as well when he was 49 and I was 14. I learned a lot about my faith, a lot about my upbringing in that time, and I knew that I wanted to serve. My dad provided me an example of what selfless public service could do to the benefit of a broader community, for the common good, if you will, right? What it might surprise you to learn is that, yes, I am a Democrat, but my father was a Republican, and his father before him was a Republican, and his father before him was a Republican. In fact, it goes back 5 generations that my family has served the state of Michigan as a Republican office holder. Why I wanted to bring that up is that actually 2 years ago, I sat here in a Vote Common Good rally, if you will. And this is a true hi mom moment because there's like a 50-50 chance that she'll be watching this at some point. What I did is I sat there and I realized this is my journey, this journey of kind of being a political refugee, not recognizing where the party that we might have remembered or what we wanted to accomplish as a member of that party, it abandoned us, right? It abandoned us. That is what my grandfather told me when he was dying, later in his life, was that the party left him, right? And this is somebody who had spent a lot of his life giving to that party. The reason I tell this story is because my father, about that selfless public service piece, my father provided an example for me of saying, let your faith, let the hope of what you want to accomplish, and let the love for one another guide your policy, guide your politics. And that is something that has stuck with me, and my mother as well, because she has continued to form my viewpoint of the world. And in my district, people do feel forgotten. They do feel disenfranchised. They do feel like their vote doesn't matter, and they do get scared of political violence. We heard that this week in Michigan. People making fun of political violence, normalizing it. That's not the Michigan that I know my family hoped to build. That's not the Michigan that I hope to bring my child into. That is a world that has no place here in Michigan or elsewhere. And so for all these candidates who are here tonight, just know that we are hoping to be a bright spot in a very challenging time, a very dark time in American politics. But the more we talk about it, the more we put a smile on our face and the things that we want to accomplish, bring joy to one another, the better we will be, the better our communities will be, and the better our world will be. So please, vote with faith, hope, and love in November. Make your choices and let that guide you in the ballot box. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Kim Nagy. I'm the Democratic candidate for State Senate in the 31st. I have a few other roles. I serve as political consultant for Vote Common Good West Michigan. I'm also president of Ottawa Integrity PAC, which was formed as a direct counter to Ottawa Impact, which many of you are aware of. In my role as political consultant for Vote Common Good, I'm the person who pays attention to what's going on in the legislature, and I always want to have my facts straight, so I'm going to work from notes. I'm a lifelong educator and a small business owner as well, and a member of the United Methodist Church for 30 years, where I raised my children. I'm running for office because I can't stand by and allow extremist Christian nationalist mob to bring hegemony and injustice to our state and our region. I want to make my position clear, and I know you all feel the same way. Our democracy is under attack. Our very democracy is under attack. Voting rights are being ambushed across our nation at all levels of government. Local government officials are being threatened, doxxed, and coerced into harmful policies that are prejudicial. This has happened right here in our community. While threats of insurrection boil from underneath, the leaders who represent our community refuse to stand up for the protection of our democracy. In January of 2021, 40 Republican representatives and senators from Michigan signed a letter to Congress asking them to investigate the 2020 election. We're all in favor of free, fair, and open elections. If we had any evidence of fraud in our election, every single one of us here would stand up and say, do an investigation. So why is this letter important? It's important because this group of Republicans had, previous to authoring the letter, asked the State Board of Canvassers not to certify the election in Michigan. The board naturally needed some form of evidence that there was malfeasance in the election before deciding to postpone certification. This group of Republicans could not meet the burden of proof. The State Board of Canvassers decided to continue with certification. So, having failed to stop the election at home in Michigan, these Republicans decided to cry wolf to Congress. My opponent, Roger Victory, who signed the letter, said, and I quote, We have requested that the United States Congress and federal law enforcement, to the extent of their legal authority, conduct an objective and transparent investigation into credible allegations of misconduct in the 2020 election. Of course, this group provided no evidence of malfeasance because there wasn't any. Roger continues to undermine faith in our democracy and our elections by refusing to this day to admit that President Biden was elected. So let's take a step back and talk about Christian nationalism. What is Christian nationalism? According to Christianity Today, Christian nationalism is defined as the belief that the American nation is defined by Christianity and that the government should take active steps to keep it that way. This ethos is inherently unconstitutional. The Establishment Clause states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting its exercise. And yet this group of zealots insists that this very first clause of the First Amendment need not apply. It is through the diabolical schemes like those to overthrow our free election that these groups have attempted and will continue to attempt to insert their religious views into our public institutions. So how else have Christian nationalists impacted the public square? We've all seen the 3 members of the Supreme Court appointed by Trump show their true colors this year. They lied under oath during their confirmation hearings. They've allowed interlocutors privy and party to the January insurrection to influence their rulings and have telegraphed their future intention to chip away at the freedoms of bodily autonomy and marriage equality. Furthermore, these authoritarian agendas have landed right here in our own community. I'm sure many of you know these groups of folks have formed, I lost my page, a political action committee called Ottawa Impact. This organization is led by a man named Joe Moss, who recently won a Republican primary for county commission in Ottawa County and is presumed winner of that seat in the general. When he first started Ottawa Impact, Joe Moss had this message at the footer of his personal website. Morality is necessary for Republican government. Religion is necessary for morality. Therefore, religion is necessary for Republican government. This should frighten you. It certainly frightens me. I want you to take a moment and think about what people like Joe Moss would say if a candidate in West Michigan who was a Muslim had this type of rhetoric posted publicly on their personal website. This kind of hypocrisy means only one thing: the ceaseless dragging of the soul of the Republican Party towards puritanical Christian control isn't about religion at all, it's about power. It's about the power to control and oppress those who they deem unworthy of the rights granted to them by our Constitution. And people like my opponent, Roger Victory, turn their back on members of the county commission whom he had supported for a decade to join Joe Moss in his crusade. We've just learned today that a severance agreement has been reached between Ottawa County and Robin Afric, our director of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Robin does a marvelous job, and she is gone. Joe Moss will undoubtedly take credit for this because he targeted DEI and he targeted Robin specifically. This election is not about voting blue. It's not about fundraising. It's not about knocking doors or political ads. It's about protecting the very soul of our democracy. It's about protecting the right of every woman in this room to have control over her body. It's about protecting the rights of every member of the LGBTQ+ community to live their own truths and to love freely without harm or threat thereof. And it's about protecting the fabric of our democracy, our free and fair elections. We need your help. So as has been said previously, get out there. Get somebody to register to vote. Drive somebody to the polls. Donate. Make calls. Do what you can do. And if you live in the 31st, I hope I have your vote. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. I'm David LeGrand, and my father was an ordained Christian Reformed minister. I am an ordained Christian Reformed minister. You all may know, if you live around here, that means that I am what one of my friends calls a resurrection Christian. That means that I am a part of a pretty theologically conservative church. Our church, we confess that Jesus Christ rose bodily from the dead. That means we're not part of the more liberal Christian tradition. We are a very traditional Christian church. My father once told me a long time ago that, and he attributed this to Karl Barth, who's probably the greatest theologian of the 20th century, that if you use the word Christian for anything other than the church itself, you are taking the Lord's name in vain. So that inherently puts me in a difficult spot because I'm currently also a state representative. That means that I'm going to treat this as sort of a safe space, and I'm going to talk about my faith, but I want you to understand that there's always that danger, and it's a very, very important danger to acknowledge, which is I do not want to have anyone ever perceive that I am asking them to vote for me because I am a Christian. So let me start by saying that. Now let me get the political disclaimer out, that, you know, the side effect language that you get on radio ads, right? So I'm state rep for where we're standing. I have been a state representative for 6 years. I am running for the state Senate. My race is the race, as far as we can tell, which is going to determine whether Democrats get a majority in the Michigan Senate this election cycle or not. I win, we get majority. I don't, we don't. Now, if I win, there may be a wave. Other people may also win. But I happen to be the pivot point seat. So that means the weight of the world's on my shoulders right now. It means that, and the depressing reality is that this race could come down to 50 votes. My seat is absolutely a 50-50 district. And we have an army of incredibly talented people out working on the campaign, but we don't know what's going to happen. And we'll let you know the day after the election. Richard Williamson, who's standing in the back of the room, is my campaign manager. And one of the things I want to say, just to maybe sand on your note, on your do something, there is a science and an expertise to politics. And so we can all do some stuff. But if you want to know the best and most effective stuff to do, that's the best and most effective match for you, talk to Richard. Because some things are more effective than others, and some things people are able to do better than others. So it's not a do anything. It's a go talk to people who have experience. I want to start by saying that I am running in a very hard election, and it's going to be very close. But that being said, I say this all the time at the doors to people. And this I absolutely foundationally believe, and that's why I'm so glad we're here, and why I'm glad why these little slogans are up here. There are days when you wonder whether hate is more powerful than love. Hate is fast, it's effective. Fear is fast and effective. The politics of fear is incredibly effective. And so much of our political narrative is based around the politics of fear and hate. But there's another big problem. That is that we have run a political model based on conflict for a long time. And so think about it for a moment. Close your eyes and think. Every single candidate I have ever heard uses two words which I will no longer use: fight and win. Because if I'm fighting with somebody, I'm hurting them, and if I'm winning, somebody else is losing. That is a conflict-based model of government, and it's gotten us to a very dangerous place in this country. So on the doors, I'm always using two marriage analogies. I say, look, if Melissa and I only ever fought, we would eventually get divorced. If this country just breaks into two camps that throw rocks at each other, the country's not going to work. So somebody mentioned mere civility before, and it's true that mere civility is not sufficient, but civility is necessary. it is absolutely important that we remember that people can have deeply, sincerely held beliefs that are different than ours without imputing malice. If we can't do that, our democracy is not going to work anymore, because we are not going to overnight make everyone in this country agree with us on position X, Y, or Z. We have to realize that, and I work every day with Republicans who I completely disagree with on certain foundational things. That doesn't mean that I think they get up in the morning and are trying to do evil. I think it's really important right now, and let me get into some Christianity here in a minute, or some religion. I think it's important, and I say, another thing I say often, what I am is a follower of Jesus Christ. I try to get up in the morning and figure out what that means. I am only contingently a Democrat. I am only contingently an American. I am only contingently a part of any other organization. What I am is a follower of Jesus Christ. Now that leads me to to be a Democratic office holder, because, and I don't want to throw rocks here, so I'm going to tell you what I find useful and uplifting about the Democratic side. I hear empathy, I hear concerns about grace and mercy. And Melissa says that I have to stop doing what I'm about to do, but let me do it. So if I boil down, and remember, I'm a minister, and I spend a lot of time thinking about this stuff, and I've been preaching for, my home church is the Kent County Jail. I've been preaching in the jail for 22 years now. So I spend a lot of my time trying to distill down, all right, well, so what does Christianity actually mean if you break it down and if you make it real simple? And as far as I'm concerned, the central message of Jesus Christ is everybody's in. Everybody is loved. Everybody is valued. Everybody counts. Radically and equally. That sounds a lot like what I want democracy to look like, right? That's why democracy is kind of awesome, for me at least, because it looks very close to what I think of as the core foundational message of Jesus Christ. Now, I got a problem with the guy with orange hair, because as far as I can see, he is the opposite of that message. So Melissa says I'm not supposed to say that he's the Antichrist, but in some obvious basic sense, if the central message of Jesus is everybody's in, and the central message of Donald Trump is only I count, that is the opposite of the Christian gospel. That is the bad news. That is not the good news. And it's important that we name that, and we stand up to it, and we witness about it. But it's also important that we, I think, start talking about it as what it is, which is a new world religion. And to also name the fact that there are a lot of religions rolling around America, and they all seem to want to say they're Christian, but as far as I can see, a lot of them demonstrably aren't. I think that people have a right to worship Donald Trump, but I think that we have an obligation to call it out and recognize it for what it is. If the man started a religion, and if he's being treated as the Messiah, that's a problem for me if I take my Christianity seriously. That ought to be a problem for Muslims if they take their faith seriously. That ought to be a problem for my Jewish brothers and sisters if they take their faith seriously. Now, the other thing that I think is going on in America is a massive breakdown in trust between elected officials and voters. And I think if we can't solve that problem, our country's going to stop working too. And so, again, what I say at the doors is often, if Melissa stopped trusting me, the solution wouldn't be to tell her to trust me. Right? The solution would be to figure out how to act in a more trustworthy manner. So I think that, and I think frankly, this is a politician problem. It's not a voter problem. And as far as I can see, if there's one single thing I would name as that problem, it's money in politics. Now that's odd, because that means that Trump was the wrong messenger for the right message. This is the man who stood up and said, drain the swamp. He's not wrong. And he named a real problem, right? He's just the wrong messenger for the right message. And I think it's important that we are honest about that and talk about that, if we want to prevail, if we want to make progress. One of the central messages of Jesus Christ was that you got to take the log out of your own eye before you start looking for the specks in somebody else's eye. When I preached once, I said, I got enough dirty laundry in my own life. I can wash my own dirty laundry for the rest of my life without having to worry about y'all's dirty laundry. Well, if that's true, I think it's really important that as we talk about this stuff, you know who Jesus was really annoyed by? The self-righteous. And you know who the self-righteous are really, really similar to? The righteous. Righteousness can tip over into self-righteousness very, very easily. So it's really important that we take care not to be self-righteous, not to be sure that we have all the right answers, not to be inflamed with our own rightness on issue X, Y, or Z. Nobody ever changed their mind because you were mad at them. People only change their minds if they feel loved, safe, and accepted. So if we want to change hearts and minds, we've got to be talking about love. We've got to be talking the language of love. Because this election cycle is not the most important thing in America right now. Whether I win my election is not the most important thing in America right now. It's not even the most important thing in Kent County. It's not even the most important thing in my Senate district. The most important question is whether America is going to be around in a form that we can recognize and love in 20 years. That's the most important question. And as we run political campaigns, we have to be building the community we want to live in. Jesus didn't say, take up his cross and let's go to a party. Jesus said, take up your cross and follow me. And the cross imagery is an image of sacrifice. And Jesus' earthly ministry did not end in success. It ended in death. So if we are serious about working for the common good, we can't count the cost. We have to be willing to think about sacrificial work. We have to be willing to think about not ourselves. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for caring about this. But there is a lot at stake. And one of the things we always have to do, as far as I'm concerned, is be really deeply self-critical and self-suspicious, because we have to get better at this every day. We have to be able to turn the other cheek. We have to be able to answer hatred and anger and animosity and fear with love. And that's a workout. I mean, I'm preaching to myself here, right? We've got to do this every day, every moment, at every encounter. But if we bubble, it's not going to work. So this is not political work, y'all. This is the political dessert. It's great to sit around and talk about this stuff, but this is political dessert. Political work is going out and talking to people who aren't where you are right now. So thank you all. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for being here today, and Nick for the work that he's been doing for Vote Common Good West Michigan. It's been great to get to know him, and I really appreciate his front row efforts in Ottawa County. I'm a county commissioner, so it's near and dear to my heart to see things fall apart at this level of government, and it's real. So I went to Calvin College back when it was a college. It's a university now. And you know, you have these moments that you never forget. I remember in my political science class, my professor saying, the American two-party system of government is a terrible system, and it's the best one in the world. And I feel like that kind of sums up where we are right now. And probably like a lot of you, I mean, obviously like a lot of you, these last 4 years, especially the last 2, have felt like, you know, are we on the verge of the next Civil War? They had to be feeling something prior to 1861, right? Did it feel like this? That's how I've been feeling. I love the work of Vote Common Good because it takes us back to what's common between two parties. That is the goal, that you've got two parties who are willing to give you their best option. You talk to the voters come, tell you what they think. Hopefully you get the majority behind you, and you have what's in common for all people. That is the goal. We want to get back there. That's not where we are right now. Back when the Oklahoma City bombing happened, that the role that the Michigan militia played in that. They've been around. These people have been around. They're activated. They've been activated by Donald Trump. It's a scary time, but this kind of ordinary, every day we can all do at work will make a difference. I truly believe that we will make a difference. And some of it is sacrificial. Those of us who are going to be working on campaigns and campaigning our hearts out and losing, the sacrificial work, so important for the cause, for the common good cause. So every candidate is important. Every race is important in that way. I don't want to take too long here, but I will say, you don't want to knock doors. I didn't want to knock doors before I ran for county commission. I'm in my first term. I'm now running for my second. I can do it. It's still hard some days to go out and knock doors, but I do it. I will say David's campaign has a huge postcard writing campaign. If you feel like that's, more your style, they have sent out thousands. Richard could tell you how many. Thousands of postcards. Every personal contact makes a difference. Democracy depends on people, and we can all do it. And not just your vote, but as David says at the doors, do you know anyone who's a lazy voter? Do you know anyone who might vote, might not vote? Activating them is so important. And I do believe this is probably the most important election of my adult life, because we've never had so many people believe that elections don't matter. We're going to be worried about the safety of poll workers. We're going to be worried about our county clerks, our election officials, the super nice, competent guy who runs the elections department in Kent County. He's concerned. He's concerned about his employees. They really are. They live in fear that something, you know why? Because people have been calling them, showing up at their office, demanding forensic audits. That's their favorite phrase. It's scary. Something bad could happen. So the more of us who are out there, activated, showing up at the polls, bringing people to the polls, making that the normal part of democracy, everyone voting. Let's have the best turnout we've ever had. To have witnesses, to have a cloud of witnesses at this election that we're in a democracy and everyone's voice counts. I didn't really want to talk. I was just enjoying listening to everyone and the great music and just hearing you all share your stories. It's been great. But we've got other candidates here. I don't know who else is going to talk, but thank you, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. My name is Carol Glanville, and I represent currently the 74th District here in West Michigan, which is Granville, Walker, and North Kent County. I am running for the 84th District, which is Granville, Walker, and the northwest side of Grand Rapids. David, I am proud to have had the opportunity to serve alongside him and campaign with him as his Senate district overlaps my House district. And so he's kind of a tough act to follow in a couple of ways, because he's been serving for 6 years and I've been serving for literally 6 months. He's an ordained Christian Reformed minister, pastor, I don't know what's the right word there. Okay. And I would consider myself ecumenical. And if you don't know what that means, because I found people don't, it's a blend of religions. And so I was raised Methodist here in a Christian Reformed area. If you are from West Michigan, Kim, you probably understand what that means to be Methodist in a Christian Reformed place. I spent a fair amount of time in Asia and learned a lot about Buddhism and have taken that on as part of my personal religion. And I worked for the Catholic Church for almost 20 years. And one of the jobs when I started working with the Catholic Church, I said, I'm not Catholic, is that going to be a problem? Because they can't ask that, right, in the interview. And I just wanted to be honest and to understand. So I have a deep understanding of a few different religious practices. And so I consider myself to be a very middle ground candidate, and I think that comes through as my religious practice is very mixed, I feel like that applies as well to my candidacy. And I brought up a little show and tell for y'all. This is my walk piece. If you can see it, you can't see it. But if you were to look at it closely, I do have copies if you'd like one. You will notice it does not say Democrat on it. And I do not have the word Democrat on my signs as well. And I've had a few people ask me about that or complain about that I'm trying to hide something. What I am trying to hide is the idea that you have to identify with a particular party in order to support a particular candidate. When what we should be doing is looking at the person, the qualifications, the beliefs, the practice, and making the best choice and voting common good. I support a number of what I would consider nonpartisan issues, one of those being pro-choice. It should not be, and it is not, a partisan decision to support the rights of individuals. I am also becoming very active in the auto no-fault work that we are trying to do here in the state of Michigan. If you're not aware, there's a lot of fixes that need to come behind the auto no-fault law that we enacted about 2 years ago. And again, that is not partisan work. That is work that we need to do for the common good for the people of Michigan. And I like to approach all of the political topics around me, the change we're trying to make, the work we're trying to do from that standpoint. Not that they are partisan issues, but that each issue that we need to address in the state is one that we address for the common good of the people of Michigan. And that means being able to have conversations, tough conversations with people that we don't necessarily agree with. But if we're all looking to the same goal, it's just a matter of getting there together. And one of the things I like to say to folks on the doors when they do ask me about my political affiliation, one, I'll say, I'm a Democrat. Is that a deal breaker? Which often opens up conversation. And another one is when I knock on the Trump door, because they're on my list, and they tell me, you know, I used to be a Republican, but I consider myself more of an independent. And I say, you know, it's okay. Come on over to the dark side. We have cookies. So I try at my best to be welcoming, to be open, to lower that affect of fear, because as it says here, you know, not fear, and fear is really the root of all of that anger and anguish and frustration. Somebody is afraid of something. And whether it's a fear of their religion being, their party moving away from them, their religion moving away from them, the confusion around what's going on in our country, it is fear. So we need to just access people with open hearts and minds and be willing to have those conversations and start where they're at and then move forward together. And that's what I hope to embody in my election and in my candidacy. You know, we won a really hard race on the west side of the city this spring through hope and love. I was able to take a seat that had been conservatively held for 40 years and flip it with 52% of the vote in an area where it had a 60% lean in the other direction. And I'm proud to say that I was able to bring that group of people together through my actions, through my experience, through what I was able to demonstrate, to bring them together, to support me and the way that I choose to lead, and hope that I will continue to lead in my role when I am reelected. So thank you all so much for being here tonight, for being willing to listen and share, and to join us all in this journey.
Thank you all so much for having me. My name is William Davis, and I am the Poet Laureate of the city that I live in North Carolina, Hillsborough, and I am visiting here for Art Prize. And I just got a message that I just got top 5 in my district. I'm like extremely overwhelmed by it, I'm gonna be honest with you. And Grand Rapids has really embraced my art so much. I think that this is an example of Nick kind of bringing me here. And so I would love to share a poem with you all if you like. So before I share this poem, I am from Grand Rapids. I grew up right on Lafayette and Garden. I hated living here my whole life. My father, he's still a crackhead walking around these streets, and my mother, she went to prison when I was 14. And so I'm a teacher in North Carolina, and I'm on the Arts Council, and just North Carolina just holds me so hard. So for me to come back and to get top 5 from a place that I really hate coming to is just amazing to me, to be honest with you. All right. Whew, man, that was amazing. Is it even possible? I know it seems logical, but sometimes I think it's an impossible obstacle to actually give thanks, to show how much you really appreciate the fact that God woke you up this day. To simply say thank you honestly doesn't seem like it's enough. The magnitude of my gratitude can't even be compared to the measure of the world's longitude and latitude. If needed, I'd walk the distance from the earth to the moon, as has been charted at 232,088 miles, to express with every breath in my chest that God has given me the reasons to smile, that he has given me the opportunity to be here now. So I stand proud. The simple two-word sentence of thank and you in conjunction honestly seems so redundant, considering his ability to wake up everyone in the world, and he still remembers me, while giving me the eyes to see and the ability to reach inside of me and bring forth these ways that he gave me. He just keeps giving while I'm taking, and he's giving and I'm taking, and it seems that all he ever wants me to say, all God ever wants us to say, is just thank you. Yeah, thank you all so much. I love to write a poem for each and every one of you. I love to write a poem for each and every one of you while I'm here. This is like super amazing to me, for real. I got 3 kids that's waiting on me to come back home. For me to get top 5, it's just crazy. So I appreciate you guys' time.
Hey, it's a good day. We're so glad. Congratulations. And we often say in these little events that we're here to take you with us. We like to make this our Harvey Milk moment. We're here to recruit you. If you know the Harvey Milk joke, good for you. If not, don't worry about it. Google it later. But we're here to recruit you. We want to take you with us. There's a lot of ways we can do this. This is not a joke. We said this at an event that Nick was at, and Nick was like, seriously, can we come with you? This is 2 years ago. We're like, yeah, can you come? He's like, 2 weeks later, he's on the bus for 6 weeks. We heard Dan made a song, called him up and said, you wrote a song, you want to get on a bus? And he got on a bus with us and went with us. So we're coming back to Michigan. We're going to be back here again. So if you can't come with us tonight, we're driving all the way down to Hudsonville tomorrow. So if you're willing to travel, we'd love to have you come at 6 o'clock in Hudsonville. A whole other crowd of people will be there. We'd love to have you. So we really would love for you to come there tomorrow night. Then we're off to Arkansas, and then we're down into Dallas, and then we're coming back up this way, and we're going to be back here in Michigan again. We'll have a big bus that says Faith, Hope, and Love, not Insurrections and Christian Nationalism. We travel on this bus. We sleep in it. We live in it. It's that kind of thing. There's an open bunk, so if you need to do something for Election Day, think about us. Maybe come with us. But if you can't get on a bus with us, go to our website if you're not on our email list yet. Like, you could write down your email, and then we'll have somebody type it in for you. Or just go to votecommongood.com and put your name on our email list. We really would love to stay in touch with you. We're not going to email you, once a week or anything. Don't worry. We actually email 3 to 4 times a week. So if you're on our email list, you know what I'm talking about. Do not put us in your spam box. We know. We tag those, and we know if you put us in your spam box. We don't know. But we'd love to take you with us any which way. This thing we've done tonight, this has been recorded. We're going to live stream it later, so you'll have a chance to watch it if you're on any of our channels, or go to our website or go to our YouTube channel. It's the best place to do that. And you can share this, bits and pieces of this with other people that might want to be here. We also have a whole bunch of stuff. We have shirts and hats and coffee mugs. Some of us biked across the country. We started in San Diego and rode bicycles along the U.S.-Mexico border 1 year ago. Today we were doing that ride. It took us 66 days and went all the way across the country to Florida because we wanted to tell a message of the border and wanted to have real life experiences on both sides of the border and meet the real people. Well, we met the people who make coffee in Agua Prieta, Mexico. Now we have a partnership with them, so we actually have a common good coffee blend that came out of the deal. And so if you, I don't know where you buy your coffee, probably from really great snazzy places, but if you brought one of these home, money goes to help the people in Mexico and the work that they do. So it's a common blend, a common good blend that we have. We're actually making a documentary about that whole ride. And if you want to know any more about it, some of the people in the room went on that ride, so we'd be glad to tell you about that and what the experience was. We do have to inform the governor of Florida that there aren't people from Mexico crossing the border into Florida. We rode the whole border. We know where it ends and then where Florida picks up, because we rode over there too. So we got a little straightening up to do about something. That's just a joke. So we'd love you to take some of this stuff. We have a bunch of it outside. It's meant to encourage you, especially these yard signs. These yard signs are designed to go next to any other sign you have. We have 2 versions. One says faith, not fear, hope, not hate, love for all. Another version says love, not lies. We've realized there's 2 kinds of people. Some people like the lies, some people like the for all. Take whichever one you want, and consider taking that with you and putting it out. And the final thing that I'll mention are these cards that are around. We've developed a curriculum on Christian nationalism Two people from this area play a prominent role in it. One of the hosts of that video curriculum is Christy Berghoff, who some of you might know. And another person is named Kristen Dumais. She's one of the presenters in it, and a whole bunch of other people. It's a free video curriculum that we've produced. It's on our website in video format for short form watching with a group. Then there's a free downloadable PDF. So the idea is that maybe you're in a church group or you have some friends or something, you don't, like you want to be against Christian nationalism, you're just not sure what it is, you know, like we're against that, right? But you're a little confused, we want to help with that. Also, when we come back in a few weeks, we want to be running forums, in-person forums on Christian nationalism. So we'll do two kinds of events as we travel the country. Some of them are rally events like this, and some of them are Christian nationalism forum training events. If you're somebody who wants to host one of those, or if you can help us do one of these on or in one of the Christian colleges in the area, we're very much looking to do that. We're looking to do it, you know, at Hope and at Calvin and Eastern College and Messiah College and Hillsdale College, all these places, because we think it's an important place to have that conversation. These events that we do are kind of partisan, right? We're like, hey, think about a Democrat, vote for a Democrat if you can bring yourself to do it, you know, that kind of thing. The Christian nationalism is not one of those. This training is just straight up this training about the threat of Christian nationalism. So we do it on our 501c3 nonprofit side, which you don't need to know what all that stuff means unless you care about it, and then that'll make sense to you about what we're doing there. So you can take one of these cards, it'll remind you where you can download that, and you can utilize that curriculum and all the rest of it. So those are the things that we have going. We always like to leave a moment for anybody else that has anything to say or a question to ask or a comment to make or anything. Anybody with something good for the room? Yes. Keith. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate that. All right, Dan's gonna sing us out then, and we're gonna load up a trailer and a truck, and there's a seat in the back. So if you need to go with us tonight, because you know you want to come along on the ride, we'd be glad to have you. Please do get on our email list and keep up, and then share things with others. And the email list really isn't for any benefit other than we just want to stay in touch with you about all the things that we're doing. This work and others, so it really helps us do that. So we'd love for you to do that. And we'll be outside. And if there's not a line out there, get in line. They were a little worried that we were going to overwhelm their line tonight, so please watch the line. Don't overwhelm it. But if you can purchase something from this place too, they've given us the space just to use tonight, so it's really great. So don't overwhelm the line. But if you could pick up a little something, that would be great.
So let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Yeah. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. We'll be free, free. We'll all be free. Yes, we'll be free, free. We'll all be free. Oh, we'll be free, free. We'll all be free. Oh, we'll be free, free. We'll all be free. Yeah. The light, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free. Oh, we'll all be free. Thank you so much, faith, hope, and love. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Grand Rapids.